an artist. Today we're going to create a tinted paper for a project that we're going to continue to work on for next week. And a tint, boys and girls, is a color mixed with white. The more white you add, the lighter the color gets. So let's get started. All right, so I have my paper that I am going to use for my sky on a silhouette that we're going to do later on. Now there's two ways that you can make your tints on this paper. You can use crayons, and I am going to stick with cool colors because this is going to be a wintry themed picture that we're going to eventually make. So cool colors, just to remind you, are green, blue, and it could be any blue, like turquoise blue or indigo, whichever blue you have, or it can also be any purple. So any of these colors you can choose. Sometimes I will use this red violet, also sometimes known as magenta. You can use that as well. So you can choose any of those colors. Red violet's one of these, it's sometimes considered cool, sometimes considered warm. So now that I have my paper, if I'm using a crayon, I am going to start off with a dark value all the way across my paper. And, oops, there's something underneath here. Hold on. So I'm going to start off with a dark value all the way across my paper. And at the top of my paper, we're going to end up coloring this whole paper. And our goal is to create gradation or a gradual change from the dark value, which this is sometimes called magenta, or like I said, it's red violet. It's another name. And what I notice, I've put a piece of paper underneath so that I don't get my work surface, my table messy. That way I can color right to the edges of my paper. Now, I don't want to get it too light too quickly, because remember, I have to stretch this out all across the paper. I've got a blue one done here where I've done dark and then gradually faded out to the lightest blue that I can make. And this was done with all the same crayon. So you just keep going down your paper, getting softer. Notice I'm always coloring in the same direction. For me, it's most comfortable coloring side to side. But if you do a better job coloring diagonally or in another way, it doesn't matter as long as you are consistent, which means you're doing it the same. What I wouldn't want to do right now is suddenly switch and go this direction, because you're going to see those crayon marks on our paper, and it will just kind of ruin the look, the smooth look that we're trying to get. So whatever way you're coloring yours, just make sure you just do it the same way for the whole thing. And if you feel like it's getting too light quickly, go back and darken this in. Now, if you have other drawing supplies like colored pencil, you could do this same thing. Of course, you might want to work on a smaller paper. If you have chalk or pastels, you could do the same thing. I feel like it needs to be darker right in here, so I'm going to make this part darker. I will show you. I'm going to fast forward here so you don't have to watch me the whole time, so you can see what it looks like rather quickly without taking up too much time. So I'll start my fast forward right now. All right, so I have this paper. So this is the example of how you would do it if you were doing crayons. So I've got two nice examples, and that's all you would have to do today. Now, if you are a person that has paint, and if you're at school with me, we're going to use paint. If you're at home and you don't have paint, it's still fun to watch, so maybe you want to see how to do this. I'm going to use tempera paint. You could do the same thing with acrylic paint. However, acrylic paint will stain your clothes. Tempera washes out just a little bit better. I'm going to give myself some white, a generous amount, And I'm going to choose one of my cool colors. I haven't done purple yet, so let's try purple. And give myself a generous amount. I can always get more. I'm just using a paper plate as my palette. And that way it's easy cleanup and I can just throw it away. The nice thing about tempera paint is it does wash off. Now, if you're painting with tempera, you want to make sure for this project that you are using kind of a bigger brush if you can. And you load up the brush just like this. And you're going to start at the top of your paper, just like we did before. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. And I'm going to paint long paintbrush strokes side to side. And I'm going to just do that for about the first couple paintbrush strokes. Notice I'm going right off the edges. My hand is down here holding it, staying out of the paint. Now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to paint this whole thing dark purple. Each time I kind of create a row across, I'm going to add a little bit of water or white to my color, in this case purple. And I'm stirring it on my plate so I can see what it looks like first. I don't want it to get too light right away. So I'm going to mix a little bit more of that dark back in there. I always save a little bit of my dark in case I need. If it gets too light, then I can always add more. Not rinsing my brush at all because we're just going to be using these two colors. Now I do one row across, and you're saying probably right about now, I don't see a difference, Miss Porter. And I would agree with you. There's not much of a difference there. We're going to try to create a gradual change from dark color to a light one. So I'm going to add a little bit more white this time, stir it together on my plate. And if you ever run out of color, make sure you mix some more back in there. Don't work with too dry of a brush. That is difficult and takes a lot longer. So always make sure you have plenty of paint on your brush and go side to side. Add more white, stir it around. There's enough purple on my brush, I think, right now. And right about now is when you're going to start seeing a very slight change in your purple from when it was at the top or whichever color you're using to this part. By the time you get down to the middle of your paper, you want to have a medium value. And notice I kind of go back and forth more than one time. That helps blend my colors. Now, if I notice all of a sudden that I've missed a spot up here, I cannot just simply go back up and paint because this tint is not going to match what is at the top of my paper. So if that happens, you might need to rinse your brush, add some more white here, and go side to side. Starting to really look a lot lighter. Another name sometimes you'll hear people call light purple is lavender. So remember, a tint, the more white you add, the lighter the tint is going to be. And you can see we wanted a very light tint by the time we get down to the bottom. At this point, I almost just stop using my purple and almost just use straight white and just allow that to blend into. Move this up so you guys can see better. Now everybody does this a little different. Yours might have a little more texture to your paper. It might have, depending on the color, it might not have as big a change. This part's a little tricky. Try to keep your fingers as much out of the paint as you can. And there you go. So now I just have to find a safe place for this to dry because you'll notice the paper is very flopsy like this. And we're going to save this paper so that next time, and this is the part we're going to start working on, we're going to create a winter silhouette. So start brainstorming some ideas for things that are outside in the winter. Don't add anything to this right now. I will show you more about the silhouette part next week. If you're at home and you've either painted or colored with crayon your paper, take a picture, put it on Seesaw so I can see how you're doing. You don't have to put this on Artsonia yet because it's not a finished project. So if you need help, make sure to contact me. Seesaw, all you have to do is push the add response button and then the photo button and take a picture of it. I look forward to seeing how you're doing, and I hope you have a great day. See you next time. Bye.